Recently, Surveillance Vietnam had just released a report on the first quarter of 2019 real estate market. Accordingly, the real estate market throughout the country remains stable, even in many areas with slight growth. According to Surveillance, the highlight of the real estate market in Ho Chi Minh City is the office for rent. Office rent in the quarter continued to grow in the last 5 years, up by 1% against the previous quarter. High-end office projects led the way in terms of rents, up by 2% quarter-on-quarter, contributing significantly to the 13% increase over the same period of last year. In Hanoi, statistics in the first quarter of 2019 show that while supply slowed down, the demand for apartments in Hanoi was still very big. Trading volume of Grade B apartments accounted for 70% of the total transactions. The average selling price was about $1,390 per square meter. This price increased by 8% compared to the same period of last year. Surveillance also pointed out the strong development of industrial real estate over the past time, especially in Haiphong. As of the first quarter of 2019, Haiphong has 11 industrial parks, providing approximately 2,700 hectares of leased land, accounting for about 57% of the total area. 5 industrial parks have completely filled up with rents, ranging from $73 per square meter to $135 per square meter, excluding annual management costs. By the end of the first quarter of 2019, Haiphong had 32 seaports, and 4 of them are international seaports, including a deep water port called Tân Vũ Lạch Huyện. Over the past time, Haiphong has prioritized the development of transport infrastructure projects, not only in the city but also connected to other provinces and cities of Vietnam in a quick and convenient manner. In addition, the government has approved 11 important road infrastructure projects implemented in 2019 and 2020. These are considered as important advantages to help Haiphong's industrial property market continue to grow. Hello and welcome to this edition of Sharing Vietnam on VTC 10 channel. Today, let's count down Mr. Troy Griffiths, Deputy Managing Director of Surveillance Vietnam, in order to gain further insights into the real estate markets of Vietnam in the first quarter of 2019. Hello, Mr. Troy. Thank you for joining us today. First question, what are your comments on the real estate markets of Vietnam in the first quarter of 2019?
I think it's been generally a very good start to 2019. 2018 was wonderful across most asset classes. First quarter is always very soft performing. We have Tet holidays and we have a hangover from the normal calendar holidays. So it's normally quite a soft start. However, this year it's probably better than most. In particular, office markets in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City are both performing very, very well. Retail is doing very well. The country's prospering and there's a strong retail sales out of there that's converting through to strong property demand and retail demand. A lot of invigoration in the property market, so a lot of new formats being developed and contemporary retail formats being developed. The industrial sector in particular is going very, very well. Figures released this morning show that we're about 9% growth for the quarter, which is wonderful. And in particular, we're outperforming many of our regional peers. So we're performing better than most Asian countries in terms of GDP, in terms of consumption, in terms of fixed capital investment, in terms of retail sales. And so Vietnam, for a start, 2019 Q1, very, very good.
Foreign direct investment into Vietnam has increased sharply in the first quarter of 2019. And the Vietnamese economy has continued to grow. So in your opinion, how do these factors affect the real estate markets of Vietnam?
Look, FDI continues to grow. It's both in terms of registered and dispersed. So that means that the FDI is real. It's coming through, and that's flowing through to the broader economy. I think in particular it's worth noting that a lot of that has been industrial this time around. So a lot of major investments into the industrial sector. And what is very, very interesting about that, it's beyond the old traditional industrial. It's more around the tertiary stuff. So we're moving up the value scale in Vietnam. And we see particular investments, Da Nang High Tech Park, Saigon High Tech Park, in Hanoi, all around, aerospace and higher, more tertiary manufacturing. So it's very, very good. So overall, FDI continues to be strong. There's a wall of money, of capital out there wanting to come in to invest in Vietnam. I guess the opportunities, there's less opportunities than money at the moment.
According to surveillance, the industrial real estate of Vietnam, especially of Haiphong, has a lot of potential. So what factors made this highlight in Haiphong?
Yeah, so Haiphong is, I guess, having its moment in the sun at the moment, and there's a number of factors that have been quietly operating in the background that have all come to fruition at the same time, very fortunately. And perhaps on the side of the government, this is now the rewards for a lot of investment. So some of the key structural things that have helped Haiphong into its position now. Infrastructure has been developed, and that's taken a long time for that infrastructure to be developed to service Haiphong. Clearly Haiphong has been on the priority ports as far as government policy goes, but it's also been the linkages, the roads that connect, that have been getting constructed for a long time, that are now opening. And so we have all of the infrastructure maturing. We also have all of the private sector players that have been working steadily and slowly for a long time, and now their parks and their investments are coming to fruition. At the same time, we have very strong industrial demand. Whether it's deep sea or any of the other associated IPs there, they're all seeing interest. So a number of key factors have all come at the same time to make Haiphong an extremely interesting industrial position.
The industrial market in Haiphong has been operating since 1994 and is one of the leading markets in the north of Vietnam. According to the Industrial Cluster Development Plan, Haiphong will have 12 new industrial clusters by 2020, providing an additional 1,080 hectares and an expected capacity of 70%. By 2025, the scale of industrial land will increase by 1,377 hectares, and the estimated capacity will reach 80 to 90%. Haiphong is becoming an industrial center thanks to improved infrastructure and logistics, abundant land, and good policies from related agencies.
Chúng ta cũng nhìn nhận thấy trên cái thị trường khu công nghiệp này đang hội tụ các nhà chủ đầu tư phát triển, cũng có thể nói rằng là có kinh nghiệm không chỉ nước ngoài mà là trong nước, rất là bài bản và có thể huy động các cái dịch vụ hậu cần cảng cũng như dịch vụ hậu cần cho phát triển công nghiệp, cũng như là các cái tiêu chuẩn chất lượng xử lý cũng có thể cạnh tranh hơn so với để thu hút các cái nhà đầu tư, các khách thuê khó tính.
Cái xu hướng đầu tư toàn cầu hiện nay thì các nhà đầu tư ấy là có rất nhiều cái sự lựa chọn trong cái việc mà tìm kiếm cái đất để mà phát triển dự án của mình, và do vậy họ cũng có nhiều cái yêu cầu cao hơn, khắt khe hơn đối với các cái chủ đầu tư hạ tầng công nghiệp như chúng tôi. Cụ thể là họ yêu cầu là phải có các cái hệ thống kết nối về giao thông đặc biệt là thuận lợi trong cái địa bàn được hưởng nhiều ưu đãi, tiện ích tốt, dịch vụ hạ tầng tốt. Rồi bên cạnh đó thì cái yêu cầu về cái việc là có một cái chuỗi cung ứng dịch vụ liên hoàn cho khu công nghiệp cũng là một cái yêu cầu cao đối với các nhà đầu tư.
Industrial real estate becomes a focus in Vietnam because it is supported by government policies such as exemptions and tax incentives for investors. Korean and Japanese investors are very interested in this market in the current context that Vietnam is benefiting from the US-China trade tension and can replace China to become the industrial park of the Southeast Asia. The development of industrial real estate has certain impacts on the office, retail, and housing segments. So what are its impacts on the real estate markets of Haiphong in general?
A lot of the industrial occupiers have very high manpower requirements. So whether that's at the floor level, the manufacturing floor level, or at a managerial level or a senior managerial level. And so the downstream benefit or location quotient that is associated with this is very, very high. That means there's a lot of workers that are sucked in and co-locate around these industries. And they're quite a variety of workers. That then spins off into MNC demand for offices. You need retail for everyone to shop and purchase and consume. You need golf courses for people to play at and have recreation. And so all the downstream benefits, sort of particularly industrial in something like Haiphong, which is diverse, are quite enormous. This has got one of the highest location quotients you can think about. And so the benefits to Haiphong downstream of this industrial peak is very, very strong.
Industrial real estate is thriving not only in Haiphong but also in many other places of Vietnam because it has much to do with logistics, the industrial sector, and also FDI enterprises. So is there any difficulty in expanding this segment?
I think it's a very interesting period in Vietnam's industrial development. So, for 30 years or so, Vietnam's earmarked major swathes of the country for industrial development. So we're now coming towards where this is maturing and Vietnam's competitive position is known, and we have all the attendant advantages of an emerging economy. However, that does need to be balanced. Logistics, quite frankly, is in a chaotic situation at the moment. There's all sorts of, whether it's arterial linkages, whether it's sea linkages, whether it's port, whether the rail linkages, all of these things are all really being pulled apart. And so that creates opportunities. So that's very, very cool that you see those opportunities emerging. It'll depend on how those settle down and how the major players interact and dominate to push things forward. In particular in the north, you're seeing transport hubs being talked about and more action around ports and rail links. And so one of the key things is the special economic zones. SEZs in Vietnam give fantastic taxation incentives. They're open for, Vietnam is open for business, and CIT holidays and taxation incentives and SEZ support is very, very good.
Last question, what is your forecast on the real estate markets of Haiphong in particular and of Vietnam in general in the future?
Look, I think we're looking forward to another good year. Government policy financial policy remains pretty firm. The index and the listed stuff's been up and down. I think there's still a lot of opportunity within direct property. The structural elements of Vietnam's demography and population mean that there will continue to be strong demand for housing. So that's got a long way to go. Offices are tight. There needs to be more offices produced. Rents are going up. Retail is booming as the nation prospers. A burgeoning population of the golden age of Vietnam's domestic travel. So, most of the asset classes are performing very, very well. I expect that will continue in the near term.
Thank you, Mr. Troy, for all of your sharing today. From all the information you have just shared, I can pin hopes on further growth of the real estate markets of Vietnam in the future. That's all we have for this episode of Sharing Vietnam today. If you have any question, please shoot an email to sharingvietnam@netvietTV.net. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you next time.